This is grade 7, chapter 2, part 1, adding and subtracting decimal numbers. So there are a couple key terms you got to know here. The first one is estimate. So when we estimate, we approximate an answer. So we guess, but it's an educated guess. So it's about or approximately this much or this much. So when we have 10 plus 21, we know that it is going to equal about 30, because when we round down, this is close to 20 and this is close to 10. So 10 plus 20 equals 30. And so when we know that it actually equals 31. So that's what an approximation is. If I'm going to overestimate, so it's going to be larger than the actual number. So if I go to 25 plus 27, I'm going to round this up to 30, and I'm going to round this up to 30 as well. So we know that it's going to be about 60. It's going to be approximately 60, where the actual answer is 52. So we're close, but you know, it's just an estimate, right? So we're overestimating. Underestimating is when we estimate smaller than the actual answer. So 25 plus 27, we can round this down. So this would be 20 plus 30. It's going to be about, or we can round this down to 20 as well. So it's going to be about 40. We could round it down to 30 or whatever. Anyways, we'll keep it for 20 for now. So 20 plus 20 equals 40, and we know that it's going to equal 52. So underestimating is going to be smaller than the actual answer, and overestimating is going to be over the actual answer. So when we get into this question, which is in your book, the very first part, an odometer measures distance in your car. So the odometer is here. These are the distances, the actual distances, and these are the estimates of distances by Ashley and Marshall. So how do you think Marshall estimated his answers? So let's look at what Marshall did. 209.5, and Marshall guessed lower at 200. 257.9, he guessed 200. 341, 300. 274, 200. 247, 200. 360, and 300. So on every single one, he estimated lower than what it was. So that's how he came up with 14. So if we knew that he underestimated on everything, we know that it's not going to be 1,400 kilometers to from Winnipeg to Jasper. It's going to be more than that, but we're not sure how much more it is. So is it helpful to know if an estimate is an overestimate or an underestimate of the actual answer? It is very helpful, because now you know if it's more or less than that. So 1,400 is 14 hours at 100 kilometers an hour. So 100 kilometers an hour is pretty standard for highway driving. So if you got, that would be 1,400 hours. So is it going to be more than 1,400 hours? Because that's a long time in a car. Maybe you can grind out 14 hours, but 17 hours, like Ashley's predicting, that's going to be a really long time. So that's a big difference. You're going to want to know if you're overestimating or underestimating. With money as well, if you overestimate or underestimate, will you have enough? It's really good to know. So show is Marshall's estimate more or less than the actual distance from Winnipeg to Jasper? We know that it's smaller because he's rounded down everything. Now, how did Ashley get her estimate? Ashley rounded to the closest number. So 50 and above, you go up, and 249 you go down. So she went down here, she went up here, she went down here, she went up here, down here, and up here. So she underestimated 3 of them and overestimated 3 of them. Are they going to be closer or further away? We're not sure until we get the actual answer, but we know that she's probably going to be a little bit closer than Marshall, who underestimated everything. So use estimation to place the decimal point. there's a couple ways we can do this. We can take the leading numbers, which are all tens. That's the 10 value. Of course, this is the ones value. This part here is the ones value. This is the tens. This is the tenths, hundredths value. But if we take the tens and we add up 80 plus 10 plus 70, so that's about 80, that's about 10, that's about 70, we know that it's going to equal 160. So because it's 160, it's not going to be, just because we add decimals in there, it's not going to be an extra 1,000. So the decimal point will not be there. It will most likely be right there. It will be $175 with 97, or sorry, 175.970. And we know that this zero after a decimal, there's infinite number of zeros. We just don't choose to show them. So that zero doesn't actually exist after the decimal point. We can also, the leading digits in all the tens positions, so estimate each number to the nearest tenth. So we can take 87, and it's closer to 90 than it is to 80. So this would be 90 plus, let's round this down, plus 70 equals 170. So we know that 170 is pretty close to 175, which is why we can guess that this number, that this decimal is going to be right here, as opposed to in any other position. So that's, you can estimate to place the decimal point. There's another way to estimate this, is to arrange the numbers in vertical or vertically and align the decimal points here. So when we line up the decimal points all here, we know that these are the tenths here, or sorry, these are the decimals here, and we can add that up. When we add this up, it's going to be 3. When we add that up, it's going to be 0, because it's a 10. And so we know that there's only going to be 2 decimal places, because there's 2 decimal places in every one of them. So if we know that the decimal goes here, we can place the decimal where we believe it will be. When we go back and we add up the 400s, 400 plus 40, and we just round it to a solid number, 800, we know that it's going to be about 1280 or 40. So we know that 1329 is close to 1240 as well. Also, they have 4 digits here, and this one has 4 digits as well, with the decimal being here, and then 2 digits after the decimal, and we know that there are 2 digits right there. Remember, if you line them up, now you know how many decimals there are supposed to be in the answer. So to use pencil and paper to get the actual answer, we're going to line them up, and then we're going to add them up. So 3 plus 3 plus 0 equals 3. When we add up 2 plus 7, we know that that equals 9. And when we add up 1 plus 1, it equals 2. So that answer is 2.93. When we go over here to this question here, we have 3 plus 0 equals 3. When we take 4 decimal 43, if you can't see it, plus 1 decimal 70, so we know that when we line them up, 4 decimal 43 plus, or sorry, 3 plus 0 is 3. And then we go up, 4 plus 7 is 11. So we use one number there, and we bring the 10 up to the next part. So you can see that this equals 11 there, and we've just split it up, and we've put that in the answer, and we've moved that up, that 1 up to the extra part. So now, when we add 1 plus 4 plus 7, that equals 12. So we know that this is the decimal here. There's a decimal there, and there's a decimal there, and so there's a decimal there. The answer is then 12.13. Finally, as we go over here, and we've got 1.23 plus 1.77. When we add this up, 3 plus 7 equals 10. So again, we leave the ones number there, and we bring the 10 up, and we add it up again. So 7 plus 2 plus 1 equals 10 again. So we have to carry it one more time. We see the decimal, so we drop the decimal down, and then we've got 3. So 1 decimal 23 plus 1 decimal 77 equals 3.00, or 3. So to subtract, when we do this subtracting, we line them up again, and we can borrow from the other side. So 0 minus 3 can't be done in this instance. So we have to borrow one from the other one. So we have to, we're going to write this here, 0.70, 0.23 minus. When we come through here, we know that this is the same as 6 plus 10. So 70 is the same as 6 plus 10. So if we change this to 10 and change that to 6, we know that 10 minus 3 is 7. When we go from here, 6 minus 2 is 4. We drop the decimals, and there's our 0, and we know that 0.7 minus 0.23 equals 0.47. When we continue here, 3 minus 0 is 3. Sorry about my squiggly writing. I'll write this bigger and better. Three minus 0 is 3. 4 minus 7 can't happen, so we borrow 1. 14 minus 7 is 7. We put the decimal point there. 3 minus 1 is 2. So 2, 7, 3. That's our answer for the second one. And if you want to pause this and try it out on your own, you can do that. If not, here we go. 4.23 minus 1.77. We borrow 1. That's 6. We borrow 1 again because 1 minus 7 can't happen, so this is 11, and this is 3. 11 minus 7 is 4. Decimal 2 decimal 46. Again, we transfer the decimal down. We subtract like that, and we get the answer 2 decimal 46. If you'd like to learn how to use grids to add and subtract, please go to YouTube/watch $V equals T66S capital D capital W capital G E4 capital P capital M. It's a great video. It talks about how to use grids to add and subtract. Finally, you're going to go to the website social7.ca, and you're going to log in with your email. You're going to answer all of the questions on the website. Thanks very much for watching. Sorry it was so long.